I went from growing up broke to having 7 figures in my 20s, and I truly believe it was these 12 habits that made all the difference for me. Starting with use the bad thing, which kind of goes against everything people ever say, but it works for me. So I have a really hard time waking up early in bed, especially when it's cold outside. But one thing that I found that really helps me is once my alarm goes off, I will grab my phone and I'll start scrolling on TikTok for about 5 minutes, because no matter how hard you try, right, that TikTok brain rot will wake you up. And a lot of people say using TikTok first thing in the morning is bad because of instant gratification and dopamine rush or whatever. Hey, but it works, right? And as long as you have the willpower to stop, why not? Another example is if you finish a really big project, reward yourself by binging a TV show. The point is, sometimes leveraging certain bad things in the right way can help you achieve more. The next habit is think delusional thoughts. So I used to be the type of person that thought that I always needed to be realistic because that's what I thought smart people did. That is until I came across a Hidden Brain podcast episode that said mental delusions can actually change real physical outcomes. So one thing that I started doing is forcing myself to be more Delulu by applying the 2x rule. So basically, whenever I have a goal, what I would do is I will just double that goal and make it my actual goal. For example, if I wanted to make an extra 20K a year, I will double that goal and say I want to make an extra 40K a year now. Norman Vincent Peale once said, shoot for the moon because even if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars. Meaning, even if you don't achieve your 2x goal, you're still going to achieve more than your original goal. Because coming up with ways and strategies to solve for 2x forces your brain to start thinking of completely different approaches than it would if you were just solving for 1x. For example, even if you didn't end up making an extra 40K a year, maybe the different strategies and approaches you did got you to 30K a year, which is still more than your original goal of 20K. The next habit is randomly schedule tasks. Now, there's this concept called the Zeigarnik effect or Zeigarnik effect that basically says that if you start a task but you don't finish it, your brain will still unconsciously work on it and try to solve it. And that's kind of why sometimes when you're taking a shower or when you're walking around the block, you just randomly think of a brilliant solution to whatever problem you were thinking about. Like there's this one time I had to come up with a new way to automate part of my business. And at the time I was really exhausted, right? I wasn't at the mental state to do it. So instead of adding it to my never-ending to-do list, I just randomly scheduled and tossed it on my calendar for a week or 2 weeks out. And over the next few days, whenever I saw the event or the task scheduled on my calendar, my brain was jolted or nudged to remember that it was marinating the information in my mind. And then one day, when I was just driving randomly, the solution popped up in my head. The point is, even if you can't figure something out right now, let your brain marinate on the idea for a little while. And when you least expect it, a potential solution might pop up. The next habit is meet your nutrition threshold. And I don't think a lot of people realized how obsessed I was with the Domino's $5.99 2 medium pizza deal because it was affordable, it was filling, and it was fast, right? It was food that lasted me several days. But then I came across a study that says that most Americans aren't getting enough nutrients from the typical American diet, and I was like, that's me, right? I always feel tired, I always feel productive all the time. So that's when I started taking my nutrients and my health more seriously. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but I have more energy and I feel better and less brain fog than ever before. So I try my best to eat only whole foods, although I do give in every so often. Like yesterday, I literally had Domino's pizza. But I also make sure to take supplements and vitamins every day to optimize my health. For example, I take vitamin D3 to improve my brain function, vitamin K2 to help with that vitamin's absorption. I also take garlic and ginger supplements for more energy and immune support. I take creatine for cognitive benefits and memory, omega-3 for brain health, and as well as magnesium glycinate for better sleep quality and anxiety. There's also a few more things that I do and I take, but if you're interested in more health-focused stuff as well, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll make a video about it in the future. The next habit is build new brain pathways. According to neuroscience, our mind expands when we do new things or experience new experiences, which makes you more creative and you get better at connecting the dots. And it's kind of like when you watch so many mystery movies that you can kind of predict who the killer is or who the bad guy is just by noticing subtle clues, right? Based on patterns that you've seen from past viewing experiences. Which is why I force myself every single month to do at least one new thing. For example, I just started taking salsa classes. Now, I'm not a bad dancer per se. I can bust down in the club if I need to, but learning these more formal official steps and using these muscles that I've never used before forces my brain to form new connections. The point is, if you do the same thing all the time, your brain will stay the same. It's not going to grow, it's not going to expand. And the more dots that you can connect in your mind, the more patterns and more money-making opportunities that you'll start to notice in the world. And you don't have to go all out and do something new, right? You can kind of take it slow, read a book if you haven't read a book in years, or even brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand really helps. Next, use AI as your personal assistant. And this is one of my favorite ways to use AI in my life, to using it to do more in less time and with less effort. For example, I use Tana to store all my notes and projects. And last week, while I was driving, I came up with a new business idea, and obviously I couldn't write it down, so I told Tana about it, and within a minute, it created my to-do list, it outlined my business plan, and it created the agenda for the meeting with my business partner. And this was all done automatically while I was still driving the car. I had the actual meeting yesterday, and again, 1 minute after the call, Tana AI transcribed the meeting, generated key summaries, and action items automatically. So busy work that used to take a lot of time and energy and effort to do is now done automatically by AI, so I can focus on doing actual work that moves the needle and increases my income and grows my business. The point is, start getting into the habit of actively looking for ways to integrate AI into your life so you can do things faster and easier. Also, since I've been using Tana for a while now and I talked a lot about it in this video, I actually reached out to see if they wanted to sponsor this video and they said yes. So if you're interested in having your own AI personal assistant, check out the link in the description, and thanks again to Tana for sponsoring this video. The next habit is to invest in shortcuts. So this one is pretty controversial, but just let me explain. So I, like most people, used to think that anyone who bought courses or paid for coaching was silly, right? Because you can find all the information you need online for free. But then I came across this post online, I think it was from Reddit, that basically says that no matter what you do, you will always pay for it with one of two things, right? You either pay for it with your time or you pay for it with your money. So for example, if you wanted to learn how to build out a website, you can find all the information that you need on YouTube, on different tutorials, different books and blogs, and you will eventually learn how to build out a website. But you're gonna spend months trying to piece everything together, trying to absorb it and understand and learn it and apply it. On the other hand, if you just bought a course or you hired a coach, all the information that you need is in one central place, right? It's in the course that you can easily go through step by step. And if you have any questions, you can ask the coach for advice for your specific situation. And to be clear, there is no right or wrong option. It just depends if you want to pay for it with your time or pay for it with your money. Now, personally for me, what helped me take my business from 6 to 7 figures is that I paid for coaches and I paid for courses, right? I could have learned and figured everything out by myself on my own for free, but it would have taken me a lot longer. I could always make more money, but I can never get my time back. The next habit is to ask for help. For a long time, I always felt embarrassed to ask other people for help because I always felt like a burden, right? Like I was sucking time away from their day to help me. Until I came across this thing called the Ben Franklin effect, which basically says when someone does you a favor, they often end up liking you more. And I remember when I was working one of my first jobs, right, one of my first couple of weeks at work, I was struggling. I was struggling for 6 hours or more to set up this complex Excel dashboard for a report that I had to present. And obviously I wanted to make a good first impression, but the Excel formulas were just not formulating, right? They weren't working, something kept on breaking. I was literally about to freak out until my coworker who worked on this project or in this team before I joined showed me what to do in order to automate this entire process in just a few clicks. He helped me out, I finished the report, I killed the presentation, and then that coworker and I became lunch buddies until he left the company. The point is, asking for help lets you accomplish more and be more efficient. If you know someone who has gotten from point A to point Z, you can just take a few minutes out of your day and ask for help and get there a lot faster. The next habit is to create digital barriers. Because according to the University of California, Irvine, it takes your brain about 23 minutes to fully get back on track. Meaning if you get distracted like once every hour, you're only fully in the zone with 100% focus for about 30 to 40 minutes. And what's worse is it takes a lot of energy and effort to get back into focus. One thing that helps me be and stay in the zone while I'm in the zone is to set up digital barriers. For example, I use grayscale mode on my iPhone because removing color makes my phone less visually appealing and reduces the dopamine and addiction that I get from the colorful apps and notifications. I also turn on do not disturb mode once I start working because it just puts me in the driver's seat, right? I get to actively choose when I check my phone. And I also set max 15-minute limits on certain apps like TikTok to prevent me from mindlessly scrolling, which also really helps in the morning. The point is, when you are in the zone, stay in the zone. Because if you're distracted by emails, texts, notifications, whatever, you're not going to be as effective as you think you are. The next habit is to be uncomfortable every 6 months. Now, this is something that I rarely talk about online, but I was very, very shy and introverted when I grew up, right? Like giving presentations or doing public speaking was the most terrifying experience for me. I would constantly overthink, I would forget my lines and I would stutter and I would mess up. And it got to the point where I would literally tell my teacher that, hey, it's okay if you dock points off my grade if it meant that I didn't have to present. But then a shift that changed everything about this is learning that if you want to grow into someone that your future self is proud of or wants to be, you need to be okay being uncomfortable, right? People are going to judge you. They're going to make fun of you either way, regardless if you are uncomfortable or not. Like if I never challenged myself to be okay with public speaking, I would never be where I am today. Like last year, I had the opportunity to be one of the keynote speakers at FinCon and one of the keynote speakers at the Asian Creative Festival in New York City. And if I never challenged myself, then this would have never been an opportunity for me, and younger me would have still been petrified. The point is, the only way you can grow and know and unlock your true potential is by pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone. So try to do something that scares you every 6 months. And the goal isn't to do the thing itself, but it's to train your brain to constantly be okay pushing the boundaries. The next habit is to create a shutdown ritual. And this one sounds a little woo-woo, but just bear with me. So I have a really tough time, right, turning my body and my mind off after I end work. Like I'm still constantly checking my emails and my Slack message and whatever, right? And I don't think this is a very healthy thing to have, your mental and your physical self always to be on. And one thing that really helped me is doing this shutdown ritual every night. Basically, once I sign off of work, like once I close my computer, I will go and stretch for 10 to 20 to 30 minutes. And this becomes a sort of physical signal to my body and to my mind that I can switch off and I can rest. And also it feels really good to stretch my muscles after sitting in a seat all day. The point is, when your body and your mind is constantly in work mode, it is in a constant state of stress. And I find it really helpful to have some sort of physical signal to tell it to clearly switch off so I can be better rested for tomorrow. The next habit is sort of a mouthful, but it's to never think anyone is better than you and you don't treat anyone as being worse than you. And I know this sounds a little pretentious, but let me explain, okay? So there's this little concept called the upper limit problem, which basically says that our own self-imposed limits prevent us from reaching our full potential because the moment we go beyond what feels normal, we unconsciously pull ourselves back down. And one thing that I found that helped me is by never thinking anyone is better than me, but at the same time, not treating anyone as being worse than me. Now, obviously there are people who are wildly intelligent and are very talented and are better, but I acknowledge that and I let them know and I think that they're smart, they're talented, but still that doesn't mean that they're better than me. Does that make sense? Most people do not fail because of something that they lack. They fail because they never truly believe they deserve more. So if you automatically, by default, think that you are the best or can be the best, right? There is no self-imposed limit. Which kind of leads me to something that you've got to learn. As someone who's worked in finance for over 8 years, I can recognize the signs that determine whether someone will be rich or not. So if you really want to be a millionaire, click here to learn the 9 signs where you're destined to become rich, even if it doesn't feel like it.